Hi guys, Russell here from Homebrew Republic. Welcome to the Brew Review. Today we're checking out the Mangrove Craft Series Apple Cider. We're heading into spring, so I really wanted to make something light and refreshing that would be perfect on warmer afternoons and warmer evenings. In particular for me, I also really wanted to make something that my wife would be happy to share with me. First up, let's check out the kit. Alright guys, what we have here is the Mangrove Craft Series Apple Cider Kit. And if we go by the description on the front, what we're talking about is delicious orchard apples, light and crisp with a juicy apple bite. Obviously we enjoy chilled. So what this kit contains is a concentrate for the apple cider and also a specialty yeast. So this is one of the Craft Series yeasts. So let's open this up and check out what's inside. It smells really awesome. Okay, so this is the same as Mangrove pouches. It's a double-sided pouch. So what we can see there is the concentrate. And then what we've got is a very clever second compartment. And on the other side of this compartment, we have the brewing instructions. We also have the specialty cider yeast, got some flavouring and some sweetener. And so I'm going to talk about that sweetener later because that's quite an important ingredient. The only other ingredient that you'll need to make a batch of cider is a source of fuel for fermentation. You can either use dextrose, liquid malt extract or enhancer. For this brew I've chosen to use Mangrove Cider Enhancer. It's worth talking about the couple of extra ingredients that come off the kit. First up, we've got the apple cider flavouring. This gets used at the end of the fermentation process. All you have to do is follow the instructions. The last one is apple cider sweetener, or the sweetener. And you've got three choices with this kit. You can look for a dry finish, you can look for an off-dry finish, or you can look for a sweet finish. The only difference will be how much of this you use. If you want a sweet finish, you use all of the contents. If you want a dry finish, you don't use this ingredient. And if you want off dry, you use half. In terms of process, the instructions suggest that we ferment at a constant temperature of 18 to 24 degrees. I'm going to aim to keep mine in the lower range between 18 and 20, and they suggest fermentation will take around 6 to 8 days. What I found really interesting is that the suggested specific gravity that defines when fermentation is complete is 1.002, which is a little bit lower than what I'm used to when fermenting beer. So I'm going to be looking for specific gravity to stabilise at around that level and hold constant for 2 days before I define fermentation as being complete. Once fermentation is complete, the instructions are asking us to add in the apple cider flavour that we've got and then leave the brew to stand for a further 2 days. After this, I will use finings, I will cold crash, I will rack off into a bottling bucket, and when I bottle, I will be using carbonation drops for carbonation. All that said guys, anything left to do is get this brew on, and I'll see you on the other side for a taste test. Cheers! Alright guys, welcome to my garage. So this here wasn't actually too hot. I didn't use as much hot water as I normally would with a brew of beer, so I think it was around 36-38 degrees when I got it down here. I've used the fridge to cool the temperature down. So the recommended fermentation temperature range is 18 to 24 degrees. My general line of thought is I'll aim to stick around the 18 to 20, so on the lower end of that range. Interestingly, I had a look at the back of the yeast, and it has said it's tolerant, or the yeast in particular is tolerant between a range of 12 and 28. So I would say it's somewhat forgiving, but like I said, I'll stick to the temperature range for the instructions. So we are going to go and chuck this yeast in. Now, the other thing that we're going to chuck in is the sweetener. So we had a packet of sweetener, which was 5.5 grams, and what they said was to use no sweetener if you want a really dry finish, use all of the sweetener if you want a sweet finish, or use half if you want an off-dry finish. So I've put half here onto a teaspoon, thereabouts. I'm not going to split hairs, and in we go. So what I'm going for with this brew is an off-dry finish. Now, interesting, or the only other point to note is, again, back to that temperature. So the current temperature is 24. So the reason I wanted to drop the yeast in at the upper end of the range is to encourage the yeast to help it rehydrate and help it activate at the upper end of its fermentation temperature range. What I will do is use the fridge to keep bringing the temperatures down until I get down to that 18 to 20, and then I'm going to have to use my heat pad. It's still pretty cool. We're on the tail end of winter, so the fridge will go off and I'll use the heat pad over the cooler parts of the night. So probably have it running for around 6 odd hours a night to keep the temperature where I want it. As always, I'll check on the temperature tomorrow morning and adjust the timer on the heat pad if there's any need to. From going back to process, 6 to 8 days is what I'm expecting based on the instructions. So what I haven't done, which I'll actually do now, is grab an initial specific gravity, and I think I'll just leave it there. I might check it at 6 days. So 6 days, like the instruction says, I'll check the gravity. As soon as it's holding constant for 2 days in a row, we know we're good, and we know we're heading down somewhere to about the 1.002. So all that said, next time I see you guys will be 6 days time. Hey guys, welcome back. This is our craft apple cider brew. So we are currently on day 11. I checked the cider on day 6 and fermentation was still active, active very much so in the bubbler. Day 7 was the same, but you could see it was slowing down, and by day 8 the bubbler had stopped. On day 8 I checked specific gravity and it was still too high. We're currently day 11, so the conundrum I've got is that specific gravity hasn't reached anywhere near the target that's been suggested, which was 1.002, but fermentation has stopped. Specific gravity is 1.009, so 7 points, which is, in my mind, well past the margin of error as well, but it's been stable at that level for 3 days, so yeah, gonna call it and gonna leave it. So what we're gonna do, when I sort myself out, there we go, close enough, is add this guy in. So this is the flavouring. Now what they had said was when fermentation is stopped, we add that in. So in we go. And let's have a little look. So she is looking really nice. Smells really good, 100%. And I've actually tried a couple of those little trial glasses, and even what's in there is really nice. It's quite dry at the moment, so the sugar for carbonation will sweeten it up a little bit. What the instructions said is from here, leave it for 24 hours before bottling, which is what we'll do. They did also say stir. I'm not stirring, I'm just going to let it do its thing. But what I will do is rack off into a bottling bucket, so that will help if any this, mixing needs to get done. It can kind of happen in that process. So from here, what I'm going to do is start the process of cold crashing, close the fridge up and start cooling it down. I had originally said that I would use finings, and because I've never done a cider before, I did actually go and double check, and I found some official instructions from Mangrove Jacks which actually recommended against using finings unless you're kegging. So I am going to go with their instructions in this case. They did say allow it to bottle clear, which we'll do. So that's it, guys. Flavours in, cold crash now, bottling tomorrow night, and then we will come back in probably 5 or 6 weeks for a taste test. Cheers, guys. Catch you on the other side. One more thing that I forgot to mention. So I've whipped the heat pad up from the bottom and fridge is now on. But what I would say is that, just in case anyone wonders, is the temperature held perfectly, kind of where I wanted it to. It sat the whole time between 18 and 22, which was kind of what I was aiming for and well within the recommended range, or that was by the instructions. So temperature in theory was not a problem for slowing or down fermentation or impacting fermentation. So all that said, everything else stands properly this time. See you guys on the other side for the taste test. Hi guys, welcome back to the official taste test of our Mangrove Jacks Craft Series apple cider. Bottle. Nice little pop. So here we go. Bottle, glass, pour. Alright, so to say that I am stoked with how this came out is an understatement. Here we go, guys. An absolutely beautiful light golden colour. It smells as you would expect. Crisp orchard apples bursting off the top. And awesome flavour. So, for me right now, this is 4 weeks old. Now the recipe or the instructions had said that, I think it said it was okay to drink from 2 weeks, but suggested leaving it for 4 to 6 weeks, or 4 weeks to let it settle and mature a little bit more. I first tried this at 2 weeks. It was pretty good. I drank it last week, so at 3 weeks, with some friends. The feedback straight off the bat from my friends was pretty much very easy drinking. So fair to say they enjoyed it, and it goes down really easily. I shared it with my wife. Her first reaction, she likes it, so good. Her first reaction was it was very dry, which was an interesting comment. So you remember that what we did was we used half of the sweetener with the goal of creating an off-dry finish. Now for me, where this is wound up is absolutely perfect. It's got some dryness to it, and I'd almost argue the dryness has settled down a little bit from where it was a couple of weeks ago. So it's got some dryness to it on the taste. It has some sweetness, but it's not overly sweet and just not overly sweet. If I think to most your fairly typical off-the-shelf cider, I find those a little bit too sweet, and this isn't too sweet. It's so that off-dry, using half the sweetener for me is the absolute perfect in the middle. A little bit of dryness but not too dry, a little bit of sweetness but not too sweet. It's really nice. I would imagine, based on how this has come out, if you used no sweetener, it would be a very dry finish. and the defining characteristic would be the dryness. If you went the other way and used all of the sweetness, it would be quite sweet. So fairly good indication there based on what you're looking for. But as I said, really happy. This was actually the first time I've ever used a cider. If I'm being honest, I feel like if I was to go down the road and get some cider in bottles and do a blind taste test, it would probably be hard to pick the homebrew one off the commercial one. I'm really happy with how that's come out. So much so that I'm actually going to make another cider. So I've already got the packet. I'm going to have a crack at, I think it was the mixed berry and lime, another one of the craft series from the Mangrove Jack's range. And yeah. Thinking back to the process, the one little hiccup we did have was that the gravity didn't seem to get down to where it needed to go. That doesn't seem to have affected our finished product in this case. So if you experience that yourself, I'd probably do what I did and just go on making sure fermentation has finished. And other than that, if I wrap this up, it would be, say again, really happy, friends liked it, it's easy drinking, and won't hesitate to do it again. Cheers.